My fellow Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border. Every day, Customs and Border Patrol agents encounter thousands of illegal immigrants trying to enter our country. We are
Hello and welcome to another Jay's Politics Podcast, part of the Podcast 99 Internet Radio Network. You can reach us at podcast99.org or me directly at jpoliticspodcast@gmail.com or jpolypodcast on Twitter, or also at j_brown1981 on Twitter and Gab. Today I'm going to be going over the CNN fact-checking written by nine authors about Trump's speech in the Oval Office yesterday. I will have a link to both the CNN article and the Trump address, their speech that you should watch. Regardless whether you agree with him or disagree with him, I think that hearing that first, then going back and reading the CNN fact check might lead you to the points that I'm going to make. It might not, and that's fine. That politics is one of those fields where it really is mostly opinion on what relevant information we have. So, like I said, this is fact-checking Trump's immigration speech written by these 9 authors here. It was last updated at 4:47 p.m. Eastern Time on today, January 19th. It is currently 10:24 p.m. or on the 19th Pacific Time. So that means it was updated at 1:47 my time, ergo about 9 hours ago. So, I don't know when it was originally posted, how long after his speech, but because there are 9 people, I'm not too worried about the timing of it. Do I think it could have been done better? Yes. Should it have taken some time to formulate? Probably. But we'll go over this. In his first formal address to the nation from the Oval Office, President Donald Trump painted the picture of a national threat and humanitarian crisis occurring along the U.S.-Mexico border, saying that his signature border wall would provide a solution. Here is a partial rundown of the president's statements and the context. All right. Sorry, I need some water. All right. So, quote, from Trump, this is quote, "The wall will also be paid for indirectly by the great new trade deal we have made with Mexico." The president made this false claim before. Trump long ago, let's start with that. Trump made this false claim before. They're splitting hairs here. The author of this segment is literally splitting the tiniest of hair possible to make it sound like Trump is lying again. Trump long ago abandoned his 2016 campaign promise that Mexico would pay to build the wall. Instead, he now makes a case that Mexico will, quote, indirectly, end quote, pay for the barrier, thanks to the potential increase in tax revenue generated by his replacement for the North American Free Trade, or NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. Yes, he quit calling for Mexico to pay for the wall directly, but he was like, okay, people are telling me this is not going to work this way. I should listen to them. So what if we do something like increase taxes or tariffs on this, and we could apply that to funding this, which is all plausible. But as we'll read on, you will think differently. Oh, don't argue with me on that. All right. But the New Deal has yet to be ratified by Congress, where the Democrats have expressed opposition. And even if the new United States-Mexico-Canada agreement ends up raising tax revenue, there's nothing earmarking that money for the wall. Income and corporate taxes are general revenue that would have to be appropriated by Congress. You mean the budget that Congress is supposed to write themselves? that they should be approving every year, not just relying on omnibus spending bills and res- you know continuing resolutions. Yeah. Yes, currently this statement is true. The plan has not been ratified by Congress yet, and that nothing is earmarking the money for the wall yet. However, there is the possibility that it could down the line. What's to stop us from doing that? There's nothing to stop from allowing this to happen other than political bias. And people don't understand that. Another way trade could bring money to the treasury is through tariffs, which are paid by American importers when they buy foreign goods. But like the original NAFTA, the New Deal aims to keep trade between the three countries largely tariff free. Penned by Katie Labasco. So, again, it's possible. It's not impossible. We can definitely have indirect payment of it. So it's not a false claim. You're just saying it's false because you don't want them to build it and there's no quote unquote proof. You can't bother to be, hey, what if this happens? Maybe CNN, maybe just a thought here. You could actually set your personal biases aside as writers and have the journalistic integrity to not spin what are the facts. Second one, Trump, quote, every day, Customs and Border Patrol agents encounter thousands of illegal immigrants trying to enter our country, end quote. This is overstated. Available Customs and Border Protection data shows that a total of 396,579 people were apprehended by U.S. Border Patrol for the fiscal year 2018 at the southwest border, which would mean an average of 1,087 per day, or each day, which is hardly the quote thousands that Trump purports. The numbers differ each month. The highest number of apprehensions was in September, with an average daily of 1,400, with apprehensions still being well below historic highs in the early 2000s. For example, annual apprehensions routinely topped 1 million. After hitting a historic low in 2017, around 300,000, apprehensions increased in fiscal year by nearly 400,000. So, yet again, they're splitting hairs here. Just because it's not 2,000, that means it's not thousands. That's not the point. The point is that there are still people trying to come into our country illegally. Why are you not upset about this? Why is there no outcry from the left on this? Illegal immigrants coming and using anything, our jobs, our infrastructure, whether they're paying state sales tax at all or not, tolls, etc., is moot. Because if they are not paying their fair share of other taxes, income taxes, FICA, Medicare, Medicaid, things like that, then why allow them in? Why are we having an issue with this border wall? Why are we having an issue with protecting our borders? We are, after all, a nation state. Did that just give me a link? Oh, that was weird. The president also expressed concern of what he called the growing humanitarian crisis. There's been an uptick in unaccompanied minors and families approaching the U.S.-Mexican border, many of whom are seeking asylum. Deteriorating conditions in the northern triangle, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, are among the reasons some have decided to make the journey. In 2016, nearly half of the people apprehended at the U.S.-Mexico border came from these three countries, compared to the roughly 10% in 2010, according to Homeland Security. This was penned by Priscilla Alvarez. Okay. So these people are still coming here illegally. Mexico has offered them asylum. International law states that you are supposed to go to the first country that allows you asylum, that it is safe to do so. As far as I'm aware, southern Mexico is not as bad as northern Mexico. It's not to say that it can get worse down there, but you have been offered asylum. Why haven't you taken it? And it's because you want to be able to try and get in, gain your quote unquote citizenship or resident status so you can actually use benefits, maybe. Maybe even marry somebody and get a green card and get your pathway to citizenship that way. I'm not saying all of them are like this, and I'm not saying that there aren't some that truly deserve the asylum that they seek. But there are proper channels. There are proper ways. If they are legitimately coming here for asylum and they were walking up to the checkpoints and saying, I'm seeking asylum, that is fine. I have no problem with that. When they're trying to climb over the current border fence, for lack of a better term, and then only when they're caught claiming asylum, that is bullshit. That is definitely an illegal immigrant who has broken our law of how to enter our country. So, quote, Trump, quoting Trump, all Americans are hurt by uncontrolled illegal immigration, end quote. It is very difficult to know exactly how much or how little undocumented immigrants cost the United States. Many experts contest the notion that undocumented immigrants are a strain on the economy. A 2007 analysis noted that undocumented immigrants made considerable tax contributions, for example. Similarly, a 2018 study by the Libertarian Cato Institute. Oh, wait. What's this? What's this link here? By the Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy. Oh, and there's a source, an actual source you're citing. But when it comes to the Libertarian Cato Institute study, maybe I should go. No, I will even make it. All right. Google. Cato Institute Undocumented Immigrants 2018 study. Oh. Well, would you look? Oh. Would you look at that? And let's see here. Let's do a quick search here. All right. Okay, so I was told that there's possibly that there are people here who, in this study, were combining illegal and legal immigrants. Illegal immigrants were 47% likely to be incarcerated than native born Americans. Let's see, what's the source on this? Huh. The fact that you're actually talking about illegal immigrants and legal immigrants in the same study tends to tell me that you're not actually um, being faithful in your assessment here, Cato. But that is what it is. And the fact that CNN wouldn't cite it directly tells me that they don't care. Similarly, the Libertarian Cato Institute, which reviewed criminal conviction data from Texas Department of Public Safety, found that immigrants, legal or illegal, are less likely than native-born Americans to be convicted of crimes. Throughout the country, there is also generally a decreased number of violent crimes. Let's see here. I believe there's an estimated 1.95 million native-born Americans, 117,994 illegal immigrants, and 43,618 legal immigrants that are incarcerated in 2016. All right, so it seems like when we're keying in specifically on the Hispanic races and the like of our native-born Hispanic, they are a large portion of what the rates that are being I can't speak are the rates that are being incarcerated. Same thing with legal immigrants, because look at that, they're the highest category. Oh, look, they're also the highest category in illegal immigrants. So even if they are not, how do I want to put this? Even if they are not being incarcerated in the numbers that we are here, because there are more, obviously, there are more native born American citizens than there are immigrants and illegal immigrants. But the fact that they have a higher ratio in the immigrant status kind of lends me to think that there's a higher crime probability here. Oh, let's see. Percentage of prisoners by origin of birth. Well, duh. Of course, they're going to be the highest percentage. You're trying to spin that as if it's, oh, I don't know. Yeah. You're trying to make it sound like, because we're incarcerating our own citizens, that we incarcerate them at a higher rate. I mean, here's the thing. I have no problem with, incarcerate, basically from the age of 0 to about 13, 14, when you can actually make some reasonable understanding decisions about things, you should not be considered incarcerated or even breaking the law, because that's based on your parents' actions, not on your own. But if you come here willingly, you are actually at fault here for your, you're at fault for this, So it is one of those things that when it comes to the facts, you're just partially skating over them. And the fact that, again, you use an actual report here, you cite an actual report here. I had to go look this up. I even showed me looking this up on the internet. That is despicable of you, CNN. If it took me literally what, like a minute and a half to search that on Google, just I don't know. That's lazy writing, in my opinion. Next Trump quote. At the request of Democrats, it'll be a steel barrier rather than a concrete wall. Democrats have long strenuously opposed Trump's campaign promise that he would build a concrete wall on the U.S. Mexico border, but they did not propose a steel barrier as the alternative. Rather, Democrats have continued to oppose the construction of any new steel or concrete barrier on the southern border. They've only kept the door open to funding the border barrier as a part of a broader immigration deal. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether they strenuously opposed his campaign to build a concrete wall or not. It doesn't matter that they're trying to keep funding on the border barrier as a part of a broader immigration deal. The fact is that they have in the past, and the next point goes over this, have supported a border barrier, border wall, because of the same reasons that Trump is citing. But no, because it's Trump, orange man bad, right? Is that how it is? Okay. So, next one. And this last one was by Jeremy Diamond. Next Trump quote. Senator Chuck Schumer has repeatedly supported a physical barrier in the past, end quote. This is correct, but if you have to add a but to that, then it means your argument isn't that valid. And here's why. This is correct, but context is key. Schumer previously supported legislation to build a physical barrier on the U.S. Mexico border. Most notably, Schumer and other Democrats supported the 2006 Secure Fence Act that authorized the construction of several hundred miles of fencing along the border, but not a wall. However, as long as the government remains shut down, the Senate Minority Leader Schumer and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi have refused to offer any funding for a border barrier. Here's the thing. Again, it doesn't matter what type of barrier. The fact that you have supported in the past a barrier to prevent illegal immigration should not be preventing you from doing the same thing now. The Democrats are just playing a cowardly game of, it's my ball in my court and I'm going home. No, you need to represent the people, regardless of whatever you think about President Trump, regardless of whatever you think about Republicans, and if you're conservative, Republican centrist, or anything like that, whatever you think of the liberals and the Democrats and the progressives. If you are in the federal government representing the people, you need to pull your collective heads out of your asses. Anyways, Democratic leaders have offered funding for roughly $1.3 billion for border security in the current shutdown fight, but not the $5 billion that the president sought for a wall. Last week, House Democrats approved a stopgap funding bill for the Department of Homeland Security that would not allocate new wall funding, but would maintain current $1.3 billion for border security money. Last year, the Senate Appropriations Committee advanced a DHS funding bill for fiscal year 2019 on a bipartisan basis that would allocate $1.6 billion for roughly 65 miles of fencing in the Rio Grande Valley. But the full Senate has not yet approved that measure. This one is penned by Jeremy Diamond, Marshall Cohen, and Claire Foran. Here's the thing. It really comes down to the fact that you guys are playing hardball. You're playing chicken with my money, with other taxpayers' money. You're not letting us have the services that we are paying for because of your, how shall I put it? Your pettiness is the best way that I can put it. Next Trump quote. More Americans will die from drugs this year than were killed by the entire Vietnam War. End quote. Some 58,220 Americans died as a result of the Vietnam War. In 2017, the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, and Prevention said the number of total drug overdose deaths was 70,327. that number is actually higher than the total deaths of Vietnam. So, and being that the CDC is a federal agency, part of the Health and Human Services, I would assume that the director would know the results of things of so far what they've found and be able to report that to the president so he could include it in a speech. Just because you don't know yet and you can't fact check it doesn't mean it's not correct. God dang, this is just stupid. However, the president's assertion is misleading, conflating drugs coming across the U.S.-Mexico border with total drug deaths in the U.S. In addition, it's not currently known whether overdose deaths will increase or decrease when the CDC releases its 2018 data this year. Okay, here's the thing. Unless you have a drop of 21,107, just doing the quick math in my head, deaths, unless you have a reduction of more than that, you are not going to disprove his points. And you can't say that he's conflating all total drug deaths in the US to that. What he is just saying is that there are more drug deaths. More people will die from drug related deaths than in the entirety of the Vietnam War. What is wrong with that statement? What is wrong? No, you're projecting your own bias. You've literally projected your own bias in here. Trump's figures also do not distinguish the deaths caused by drugs smuggled into the country versus those prescribed by U.S. doctors. God, what? All right. The majority of hard narcotics seized. I can't even go over that last point because it is literally the same point I just made. The majority of hard narcotics seized by Customs Border Patrol Border Protection comes through the ports of entry, either in packages, cargoes, or with people who attempt to enter the U.S. legally. The only drug that is smuggled in higher numbers between legal entry ports is marijuana, according to information from CBP and the DEA. China has been one of the leading sources of illegal synthetic opioids. However, China's role with the importation of fentanyl may soon shift since President Xi Jinping agreed to make fentanyl a controlled substance late last year. Megan Vasquez? Megan? I'm going to go with Megan. Here's the thing. To be quite honest, is we don't know how much is coming in illegally if they are not getting caught. The way you conflate these points, CNN, is that we are catching every single one of the illegal immigrants that comes in. Oh, look at that. That's a projection on my part. It kind of sucks when somebody makes a projection about your information. But in all honesty, I think that's what you're doing. Is you're trying to conflate that we catch everybody, therefore, we know exactly how much is coming in and how much is not. Next Trump quote. 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted on the dangerous trek up through Mexico. Trump acknowledged the violence migrants faced in transiting to the U.S., saying that 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted on the dangerous trek up through Mexico. Women and children are the biggest victims by far of our outbroken system. This is a tragic reality of illegal immigration on our southern border. End quote. Indeed, the trek to the U.S.-Mexico border has been reported to be violent. According to the data from Doctors Without Borders, 68.3% of migrants and refugees, quote, entering Mexico reported being victims of violence during their transit towards the U.S., end quote. And nearly 1/3 of women said that they had been sexually abused. But this very violence is also why women have chosen to travel in caravans, penned by Priscilla Alvarez. Here's the thing. Why is that our fault? Why is that Trump, the United States government, our border, or anything, our border patrols, or anything like that? How is it our fault? Someone please explain to me why this is something that we can control. You can't? What's that? You don't have a valid argument? That's because it isn't our issue. The issue is in these other countries. And maybe, just maybe, if they stood up and fought for what they believed in, what they wanted, the rights that they want, they could overthrow the governments. They could do these things. Yes, people will die. Yes, revolution is a bloody, horrible thing. But it is not our responsibility to go in there and cause, to overthrow these governments. It is not our job to go in and do these things. No, it is the people. We didn't overthrow our leaders, by demanding that all the other countries in the world come in and help us overthrow them. No, we asked for help, and other nations agreed to help. Other nations chose not to, because Britain had the largest navy at the time, the most prepared navy. They even had one of the largest and well-prepared armies out there. So here's the thing. If you study the history of the revolution, by all standard metrics of war success, we should have lost. But we didn't. We persevered till we got what we wanted. So, next quote, Trump. Every week, 300 of our citizens are killed by heroin alone, 90% of which floods across our southern border, end quote. While Trump's statistics on heroin deaths are true, it is unclear what a border wall would do to reduce the amount of heroin coming across the border. It is a lot harder to go across the border with a large, imposing physical barrier in your way than it is to have just a simple fence line that can be cut and people can run across. I don't understand. I don't understand how you can sit here and say, oh, yes, this is true, but we don't know how the wall works. And I know a lot of the people that I follow on YouTube and stuff say, well, all you have to do is argue with them about their use of their own fences, their own walls, et cetera, in their daily lives. And there's some truth to that. We have these liberal elitists, these progressive elitists that seem to think that a massive wall on our border is bad, but living in a gated community or living in a secure building where you have, either doormen or you have a key card or an access code that you have to punch in to get in is effective, but the border wall won't be. I mean, yes, you are not going to stop every single bit of drugs coming in. You just can't. And that's not even what he's trying to say. Oh, God. You're just driving me. You're just driving me insane. All right, where was it? Okay. The CDC reports that in 2017, more than 482 people died from drug overdoses involving heroin in the U.S. This averages out to be about 297 individuals each week. In addition to the DEA's heroin signature program, which analyzes heroin samples to determine where they were manufactured, determined that heroin from Mexico made up 86% of the samples analyzed in 2016. However, the majority of the heroin that comes across the southern border is smuggled in by privately owned vehicles and tractor trailers at legal ports of entry, where the drug is commingled with legal goods. that does not negate the point that 86%, an overwhelming majority of heroin, is made in Mexico and comes into our country. Maybe if we also fund, these border patrols to better check these vehicles, not just, maybe just get rid of the random tests and just screen everybody. That way there's no prejudice, there's no bias, there's nothing. There's literally just, here you go. But it is whatever. Again, by Megan Vasquez. Next Trump quote: "All Americans are hurt by uncontrolled illegal immigration. It strains public resources, drives down jobs and wages. Among those hardest hits are African Americans and Hispanic Americans. There is some evidence that a small slice of native-born workforce may see wage decreases because of undocumented immigrants competing for similar jobs, dragging down wages. Research shows that the negative effects are concentrated among workers without college degrees, who are disproportionately African American, but also includes earlier generations of immigrants." So the people that you actually try to fight for, that you say that are oppressed and that need help and need a leg up, it's okay for them to be disenfranchised, to be affected this way by illegal immigrants. Yes. But in general, economists have determined that immigrants, undocumented or not, again, combining legal and illegal immigrants coming through, tend to help American workers by serving in low-skilled jobs that create more opportunities for the native-born to move up to managerial and knowledge-based roles. Under normal circumstances, we wouldn't make you a manager. However, here you go, Jimmy. Welcome to middle management. Really? Oh, God, that's just asinine BS. For example, another study that's not linked. Yay. For example, a 2009 study by University of California, Davis, economist Giovanni Perry found that a 1% increase in the state's employment due to immigration produced, on average, a 0.5% higher wages for each worker in the state. So, by bringing in immigrants, both illegal and legal, at a rate of 1%, produces a 0.5% increase. So let's see here. Let's see if I can pull this up here. It's not going to show on the screen for you. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to do a quick math break. Actually, let's see if I can add that source really quick. Let's go in here. And we'll go with window capture. Add source. Calc app. Add new source. Nope, not going to add it. Yeah. Well, we'll just delete that. I'm not going to share my screen, so don't worry about it. So, I, on average, make we'll call it 30,000 a year in my current job. Times that by 0.01, sorry. That's an extra $300 of taxable income. Oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. That's 1%. Let's do that again. $30,000 times 0.0. Oh, come on. I said times, you stupid thing. 0.005. That's an extra $150. Maybe an extra 5 tanks of gas if I really needed it. Maybe a nice night out with the wife once that year. Oh, but that doesn't factor in the fact that it will be taxed. So figure that's going to be roughly what tax rate's about 30%. So times that by 0.3. So it's $105 that I get in pocket. So whoop de doo. So, and this is from Linda DePillis. Sorry if I butchered your name. Next quote: Trump. In the last 2 years, ICE officers have made 266,000 arrests of aliens with criminal records, including those charged or convicted of 100,000 assaults, 30,000 sex crimes, and 4,000 violent killings. Trump is using these statistics to paint a picture of dangerous criminals coming across the border, which is true. It is a fact. On balance, these stats he cites are largely accurate. Ooh, again, a fact. Yet the fact is more than half of crimes those crimes are not violent in nature. What is nonviolent about assault? Sex crimes? Violent killings? What about those are nonviolent in nature? Over the past 2 years, roughly 2/3 of the undocumented immigrants arrested by ICE had prior criminal convictions. Most of those either immigration violations or nonviolent crimes. Okay, so that doesn't. Okay, that's not the point of his stats. The fact that he's talking about specifically people who have been charged or convicted of assaults, sex crimes. Okay. In all, of the 302,051 arrests made by ICE enforcement and removal officers, 210,876 had prior criminal convictions. If you include those with pending criminal charges, you get just more than 266,000. Oh my goodness. His numbers and homicides reflect what ICE reported: 99,207 people charged or convicted of assaults. Okay, how's that not violent? 3,914 charged or convicted of homicides. Excuse me. Again, Again, what's not violent about homicides? However, the number of sex-related crimes ICE reports appears to be a bit lower, at 27,000. Okay, so 3,000. So 3,000. He rounds up by 3,000. Wow. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. I'm sorry for those of you that are religious where I just use the Lord's name in vain. But the sheer stupidity here. Criminal traffic offenses account for the largest single category of criminal offenses, with just those aren't the. Talk about misleading the public. Talk about misleading the people that you represent. Oh my God. The president is including people who have been charged but not convicted of crimes. So far, for assaults, for example, if you only looked at the convictions, the number is much lower at 61,000. So we'll round that up by 94 to a nice even 62,000. So 38,000 people are being charged versus 62,000 that have been convicted. And this is written by Bob Ortega. And this is the end of the article. I mean, but it's literally just. I'm literally just started taking my multimedia journalism class for my public relations degree. And when I see stories like this, it boggles my mind. It irritates me. It makes me, I don't even know what to say. You sit here and act as if that you have the moral high ground here, CNN. And when I say CNN, I mean these 9 writers. You don't have a moral high ground, considering that most of these, you capitulate that he's right in his information, but you want to spin it in a different way. You provide, you cite studies and information, but you don't provide links to any of the sources. Let me see. How many links internally to these do I have? Let me go back to that part of my screen here. So here you can see Bob Ortega, no links. Linda DePellis, no links. Megan Vasquez, a CDC report. Let's open that one up really quick. Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. Oh, and that's just this one. So, I mean, all right. Doctors Without Borders. $2017, still valid. But the point is, entering Mexico. Again, this study doesn't mean that it is our responsibility. So again, I'll agree that they cited a source here. Oh, leading sources, DEA. Okay, so I might be wrong on my point. I can take that. Let's count how many things they have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So of the 9, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll go slower. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it might be 5. 4. I'm just going to double count again, triple count. So 1 without, 2 without. Okay, 1 with. 2 with. 3 with. 4 with. So less than half, but almost half. So not an overwhelming majority. But literally, less than half of your fact checks you have sources, but you don't cite them. How about you cite your sources? How about you keep track of your updates and provide an archive so we can see things? How do I know that all these sources that you cited weren't added after the fact from people like me finding them, you seeing that we found them, and then just throwing them in there really quick? It's not that hard to update a website. So, but that's just going to be the end of it. The end of my video here. I hate having to defend Donald Trump because I personally just don't like the man. I respect him in his position as the office of president, and as far as I'm aware, he has done nothing wrong that requires impeachment. But yet people seem to think that I'm wrong. So whatever, that's fine. If they can provide me with some proof, I would gladly love to see that, but I'm not holding my breath. So I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully you understand that fact checking, especially trying to do it either real time or shortly thereafter, you can miss information, you can misinterpret information. And hopefully CNN will learn from this, because I'm not the only one that's talked about this. There are plenty of others who have talked about this. Some can do it more succinctly than I can, but I like to give the context of everything. So, this has been Jay for another Jay's Politics podcast, part of the Podcast 99 Internet Radio Network. You can reach me at jpoliticspodcast@gmail.com. Links will be in the description below for everything that you see here, minus the first one over here, because this is something I wanted to watch, so I didn't want to lose. Hopefully, you'll contact me. Let me know in the comments below whether you liked it or not. I do keep track of those things, and I do try to respond when I get posts, so please, feel free. Have a wonderful day.